It's already 2 minutes past the 9:30. I'd like to start. Good morning, everyone, again, and welcome to the 2021 the Region 10 Transportation Conference. And this is an annual conference that hosted by PacTrans and the CSET. And this is the 8th year for our conference, and which rotates around the region. And last year it was held virtually for obvious reasons in Moscow, Idaho, and Pullman, Washington. And this year we had hoped to host you at Oregon State University in Corvallis, and which is sets the center of the Willamette Valley, and also Oregon's wine country with more than 600 wineries. But unfortunately, we are not able to host in person this year, and so we're sorry that you can't be with us in person. But we welcome you and invite you to visit us at any time in the future. And we have a great agenda of speakers today, and we are thrilled with the participation this year. There's over 150 participants registered for today, and every session next week that we have more than 100 registered and per session. As attendees, you do not have video or audio, but we welcome and want your participation. You should find your monitor 2 ways to communicate. The chat will go only to panelists, the speakers, and myself, and also to Cole Kopka. And if you have any technical issues with your video or anything else, that you can send a chat to Cole or me. And the other feature is the Q&A for question and answers. This is your chance to ask questions to the speakers, and also we invite you to ask questions. Please type in anytime during the presentation, and the moderator will then provide voice for your questions and ask the speaker to respond to your question. You can ask a question anytime during the presentation, and you can also sum up questions and anytime during the presentation. This will raise the questions to the top, so the moderator will be sure to see and ask the most interesting questions. So on your screen now, you should be already seeing the agenda shortly, and after this welcome session, we'll proceed with the keynote address and conclude the session with 3 panelists discussing the social equity in transportation. And we expect to conclude our today's kickoff session around 12:30 Pacific time. And at the same time, we also invite every one of you to attend the sessions next week. Each day, roughly around lunchtime, we have a panel of 3 speakers on different topics. Please register and join us next week. We'll now proceed with a welcome remark from Dr. Yinhai Wang, professor and the director of PacTrans. So Yinhai, please.
Thank you, Haizhong. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the PacTrans Region 10 Transportation Conference we jointly hosted with the CSET Center. I bet some of you are returning participants of the PacTrans conference. Some of you are new, so please forgive me for using a minute or 2 to introduce the PacTrans Center. PacTrans Center is a US DOT University Transportation Center for Federal Region 10. So we cover Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Alaska. So there are 7 consortium partners, University of Washington being the lead. We have Washington State University, Oregon State University, University of Alaska Fairbanks, University of Idaho, Gonzaga University, and Boise State University. As the Region 10 Center, our center focuses on providing data-driven solutions for the diverse mobility challenges of the Pacific Northwest. So the PacTrans Center has been working on mobility challenges considering 4 different aspects. So we consider accessibility, reliability, efficiency, and safety. So PacTrans work very hard to serve as the Region 10's research engine, technology showcase, education leader, workforce base, and also information platform. So this conference serves as a nice platform for the researchers to meet their colleagues and also potential users of the technology from agencies and private companies. We have been doing this, on the kind of rotation basis. Last year, as Haizhong mentioned, we had our conference in Idaho, and that was a virtual conference. And this year, we really hoped that we could host this on-site on the beautiful Oregon State University campus. But because of the pandemic, we have to make this virtual again. So I do see the advantages of being a virtual conference also. So we have in places, and certainly I hope you can enjoy this conference as well. Over the past year, PacTrans has been working hard to address the Region 10 transportation challenges. As most of you can tell, we're facing a huge problem with the supply chain and also the logistics. So the ports are congested, we're lack of truck drivers. To address these challenges, we could use the classical method, getting more people to work on the field. So that's one role that as the university center, we try to attract future workforce to work on the transportation issues. Another aspect to solve the problem could be developing new technologies. For example, if we have automated truck technology, and we can solve to a large extent the lack of truck drivers. We also work on the safety challenges. As you see over the past year, roadway fatalities increased by 24%. Pedestrian fatality also increased by 21%. So there are a lot of challenges that we have to deal with. Certainly, equity is another big deal. Accessibility, how do we allow underrepresented groups to have equal right of way to use the existing services? So those are the things that our UTC will also need to study and provide a good solution. So reliability and the resiliency is certainly quite important. As you see, the e-commerce increased by over 40% in 2020. So we see the changes of the delivery method, and also the first last mile challenges are always a very big deal for safety and efficiency. So our researchers have been studying all these topics. We have over 30 ongoing research projects. So in the coming year, we can see that the PacTrans will continue to study these important regional issues. In addition, we recently launched the PacTrans Workforce Development Institute. We have already delivered 7 courses to our state DOT partners. We have more courses lined up, try to deliver to the working professionals who need them. In addition, we're also working on courses that will help to attract K-12 students to join the transportation study and the future transportation workforce. So I know there are a lot of things new to us, but we're working very hard, try to accomplish our goals to develop the future workforce for our transportation industry. So another important thing I want to mention is that we recently launched the PacTrans PhD webinar series. So this is operated by our students completely, and they have delivered 4 PhD webinars and attracted a lot of participants. If you are aware of some good PhD candidates or recently graduated PhD students who have a great topic to talk on this platform, please let us know. So technology transfer is certainly very important because we're now in the final stage of the center, so currently funded by FAST Act. We have a lot of research products, and our PIs are working very hard to try to bring the products into practice. This is something we'll continue to enhance. All our research products are listed on the PacTrans website. If you see some of the products may be of your interest, or you see it could be used in your practice, please also let us know. And PacTrans has an ongoing call for success stories. If you see some technology may be useful and your agency or company want to use the technology, PacTrans may fund the success story project at about $10,000 each. So let's try to make the last step for our research products to go to practice. So anyway, there are a lot of exciting things going on, and we do foresee a lot more things to come in the coming year. So you will see in this particular conference, there are research products in the virtual poster room, and also the sessions talking about important things that we all care in Region 10. So with that, I would like to appreciate Haizhong Wang, who is the conference chair, and also the organization committee for their hard work. So there are a lot of time invested to make this conference happen. Thank you very much. Now I would like to introduce Billy Connor, who is the director for the CSET Center. Billy has a lot of experience in transportation from both the research and the practice side. He worked for 30 years at Alaska DOT and the public facilities, and 10 of those years are actually serving as the chief of research for Alaska DOT and the public facilities. And Billy is currently directing the Center for Safety and Equity in Transportation. Billy, welcome on board. Now the floor is yours.
Thank you, Yinhai, for the kind introduction. And Haizhong, thank you very much for putting this conference together. Like most of you, I would much rather be sitting in the room with you and enjoying each other's company as we move forward. But unfortunately, that is not the case. So we will take the advantages that the virtual forum gives us, and which really allows a lot more people to attend than may otherwise be able to be with us. As Yinhai indicated, I'm the director of the Center for Safety and Equity in Transportation. Safety and equity go together very nicely, and it also fits very well with the activities of PacTrans, which is mobility with a little bit of safety going in there. Some of the issues that we're facing in rural America are somewhat unique in that we have been struggling since the creation of CSET in understanding crash rates. We're finding that they're not very well recorded, and sometimes we end up having to go to the trauma registry rather than the DMV records to get an idea of what those crashes are like and what they may entail, and try to piece together the story. And in some cases, we just simply go to community newspapers to get that information. So we really need to be doing a much better job of understanding those crash rates. The other issues, the crash rates are so low that we can't do the normal types of analysis that we are likely to do on more urbanized areas. And as a result of that, we often miss some of the issues that we need to be addressing. So we're working with that. For some areas, Alaska in particular, but we also see it somewhat in Western Washington and Idaho and throughout the Western states, that trails are a very important part of the transportation system in many of these areas, especially when we're talking about the Native American folks and Alaska Natives. We are dealing with that, and we have a session that will be discussing that later next week. So I encourage you to look at that. So we're trying to work on that issue. In some cases, ATVs are the vehicle of choice. That includes four-wheelers and snow machines in that, and we certainly need to be taking those into account. And I know here at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, we're working very hard to develop some standards for our villages, because they simply can't afford the standards that are in our green books, and even our low volume roads standards are overdone. Air quality issues, dealing with dust is a real problem for us, and we're trying to work our way through that. lots of new technologies coming on board, including RWIS, remote weather information systems. The drones are becoming a better, more viable resource for us, especially in search and rescue efforts that we have to deal with. So those are all things that we're working on and we'll be discussing over the next week. So once again, I thank all of you for joining us. I hope that you have a pleasant and informative week between from now until middle of next week when we close this out. And certainly, if you have any issues with that, be sure to contact any one of us and we'll be more than happy to help you out or provide you with additional information. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Haizhong.
Thank you. Thank you, Yinhai and Billy, for the wonderful remarks. Each year at our conference, we invite an elected official to say a few words. And this year, we're fortunate to have Congressman Peter Defazio from the Oregon's 4th District. And just very quickly to introduce Congressman Peter Defazio, he spent his time in Congress working for Oregonians. As the Dean of the Oregon House Delegation, he has developed a reputation for being an independent, passionate, and effective lawmaker. And in December of 2019, Congressman Peter Defazio was re-elected by his colleague to be the chair of the House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure for the 117th Congress. As you can imagine, Congressman Defazio is very busy. Unfortunately, he can't be with us today in person. So his office sent in a welcome video instead. So and we'll play the video from Congressman Defazio for his remark.
Well, thanks. Welcome to the 2021 Pacific Northwest Consortium, event. Wish I could be there with you in person, maybe next year. Just a little bit about where we're at in Washington. Probably everybody looking from afar is like, what's happening? As I record this, we are still negotiating the reconciliation package. We have a 30-day extension of DOT funding and a pending vote on the so-called bipartisan infrastructure bill. As many of you might know, I wrote the INVEST Act, which was passed in a real legislative process through the House twice, with hundreds of amendments offered. Unfortunately, that was not to be. 12 senators, most of them not on committees of jurisdiction, wrote the so-called bipartisan bill. My bill would have moved us into the 21st century in terms of transportation policy. Would have dealt very significantly with climate change, resilience, social equity in transportation. Their bill is pretty much Eisenhower 8.5, or maybe 9.0, if I want to be generous. And but there is a lot of money in it, so we got to turn a sow's ear into a silk purse, and we're working on that. First off, in terms of immediate concerns for you, you did pretty well. The bipartisan infrastructure bill has $500 million for UTCs. As you know, I'm a huge fan of the UTCs. I brought a UTC to Oregon back, I think, during the FAST Act. I can't remember when. And I did a unique one, which was a consortium of 4 universities. And I think the UTCs are a powerful force to help us plan more efficiently for future of transportation. And absent major changes in policy that I wanted, you all can help driving those issues through your research, showing how we can do things better in the future. So that's one key point. I'm also in the reconciliation bill attempting to restore a greenhouse gas reduction program, another $10 billion for a transit HUD program to access affordable housing with transit, That would be the $10 billion that jerk Senator Toomey cut out at the last minute, even though he wasn't going to vote for the bill. Don't understand his clout. And then we also, I'm putting a novel $10 billion high-speed rail program that must serve a city center. Most of the private ones being proposed go to peripheries. That's not going to get the job done. And this would be for public high-speed rail. Record amount of investment in Amtrak and that. More investment in social equity, rejoining communities split asunder. Right here in the Northwest, we have the dispute about the Rose Quarter, and there's an ambitious program to cover it, rejoin the community while dealing with the congestion below. And this bill, my bill in reconciliation, would put $4 billion into programs like that across the country. Of course, my bill also would have had a fix-it-first provision saying, hey, wait a minute, before you go and build more highways and divide more communities like is being proposed in Texas, you've got to look at the alternatives. You've got to look at rail. You've got to look at transit. You've got to look at the pollution. You've got to look at the social costs of what you're doing here. And this was very inspired by Virginia. Virginia has a huge problem, 95 South. They were going to add one more lane each way, the Republican administration. Democrats came in and said, wait a minute, if we build that, it'll take 10 years, and in 10 years, with induced demand, it'll be just as congested as it is today. So they said, And they started bargaining with CSX, and they got a deal to run rail from Richmond to Washington, D.C., not high speed, but higher speed. And part of the deal was they're going to build a new railroad bridge over the Potomac River, which CSX loves because the current bridge is at 99% capacity with commuter rail and CSX and Amtrak. That means that everybody wins in this case. And by the way, it costs half as much as the highway expansion, which wouldn't have worked. Unfortunately, those principles were taken out of the bill, but I'm going to certainly encourage through my voluntary greenhouse gas reduction program, which will give grants, that states adopt those sort of principles by themselves. Now, the unenlightened states won't do that. That's a shame, but many other states will take advantage of it. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us. Hopefully we get reconciliation and the bipartisan bill done at the end of this month, create more certainty for the future going forward. And then, there will be a lot of money out there for a lot of interesting projects, which you all can help shape to move us into a 21st century, more efficient transportation system. So thanks for what you do and the research you do, and keep up the great work.